She arrived alone pregnant, glowing, and completely unaware that by the time she left, everything would be different. On a quiet spring morning in Atlanta, the sidewalks glistened under filtered light. Life moved slowly, a mother adjusting a stroller, a barista wiping down a table, retirees arguing softly over crossword clues. In that stillness, Monica Ellis stood outside the Eastbrook Women's Medical Center, one hand cupping her belly, the other gripping a worn leather tote. She was 6 months pregnant, 33 years old, a middle school science teacher who still brought home extra worksheets to grade at night. Her long braids were neatly tied back, her blue maternity dress hugged her like comfort, no makeup, no jewelry except the simple gold band on her finger. The clinic loomed like something out of a design magazine, glass, marble, and silence that cost too much to question. Inside, flower arrangements were too perfect, too plastic. The air smelled faintly of lavender and wealth. Monica had confirmed this appointment twice. Her husband, Derek, was supposed to be here, but work had pulled him into an early crisis. Federal duty called you, didn't say no to that. Still, her voice wavered slightly when she whispered to the baby, "Daddy'll be here soon, okay?" She stepped forward. The glass doors opened with a polite hiss, and with it, the first crack. The receptionist barely looked up. Blonde, early 20s, airbrushed makeup, name tag that read, Haley. Monica smiled politely. "Good morning, Monica Ellis. I have a 10:30 with Dr. Lindsay Halbert." The girl blinked slowly, like she hadn't heard. Then, reluctantly, typed something into the computer. Her eyes flitted up and down Monica's body, not professionally, judgmentally. "Dr. Halbert, right?" she said with mild confusion. Monica nodded. "Yes, scheduled 2 weeks ago, confirmed last night." The clipboard slid toward her like a courtroom summons. No eye contact, no warmth, just the unspoken message, "You don't belong here." She sat down. Around her, women with designer handbags glanced sideways. One pulled her Louis Vuitton closer. A man, probably a husband, cleared his throat and looked away. Monica filled out the forms with perfect penmanship, the same way she corrected her students' work, but her hand trembled ever so slightly. She didn't belong here, but not for the reasons they thought. She belonged in places where kindness didn't have a dress code, where her knowledge mattered more than her skin tone or the price tag of her purse. And yet this morning, she had walked into someone else's world. 10 minutes passed. Then a nurse appeared, pale scrubs, clipboard in hand, not even a nod. Monica rose, adjusted her bag, offered a smile. It wasn't returned. The hallway they walked down was spotless, soundless. Paintings of white mothers holding newborns lined the walls. Monica passed them quietly, wondering not bitterly, but truthfully whether a woman like her had ever graced those frames. Room 3B. The door opened. The nurse gestured. "Doctor will be with you shortly." That was it. The door shut before Monica could even say thank you. She sat carefully, adjusted her dress, checked her phone. 10:43. Derek was late. She tried not to be upset. He had never missed a scan before, but this one, the 4D scan, was supposed to be the moment. She wanted him there when they saw their baby's face for the first time. The doorknob clicked. Monica looked up, hopeful. But what stepped through wasn't warmth. It wasn't care. It wasn't even professionalism. It was Dr. Lindsay Halbert, tall, porcelain white skin, grey eyes like winter ice, her blonde hair tied into a bun so tight it looked angry. No hello, no clipboard, no handshake. Just silence. Long, cold, deliberate. Then finally, "So, you're Monica Ellis?" Monica straightened her back. "Yes, ma'am. Good morning. I believe we're doing the 4D scan today." Dr. Halbert didn't move. Her eyes scanned Monica like she was calculating damage. "You came alone?" she asked flatly. "My husband had an emergency. He's on his way," Monica replied. A smirk flickered across the doctor's face. "Of course he is," she said under her breath, turning to fiddle with some papers. Then, without warning, her voice turned sharp like a knife cloaked in a silk napkin. "Let me guess. You're not really sure who the father is, or maybe he decided the responsibility wasn't for him this morning." Monica blinked. For a second, she thought she'd heard wrong. "Excuse me?" Dr. Halbert turned back, her face now a mask of cold contempt. "This isn't a public clinic, Miss Ellis. We serve women committed to the well-being of their child, not walk-ins from the bus station looking for handouts." Monica stood, her voice calm, but her hands were shaking. I scheduled this appointment. I confirmed it. I came here respectfully. Dr. Halbert stepped forward, voice lowering to a hiss. Women like you are always respectful when you want something, and then you bring drama, disruption, and false accusations. But not today, not in my clinic. And then, almost too calculated to be real, her eyes darted to a tray behind Monica. My watch, she said suddenly. It was here this morning. Cartier, platinum, now it's gone. The accusation hung in the air like poison. Monica's breath caught. I didn't touch anything. The doctor's face twisted into a satisfied sneer. Security will be here shortly. Don't move. Then she turned and walked out like she hadn't just shattered someone's dignity. Monica stood frozen. The walls felt smaller now, the exam bed farther away. Her baby shifted inside her, as if sensing the threat. And the door clicked shut behind her. She was alone. But not for long. The silence after the door closed wasn't quiet, it roared. Monica stood in the middle of the room, her heart pounding hard enough to echo in her ears. Her hand instinctively shielded her belly, as if to create a barrier between her unborn child and the hatred that had just dripped from the lips of a woman in a white coat. She whispered to herself, "Stay calm, breathe, you've done nothing wrong." But that mantra crumbled when the footsteps came. Heavy, purposeful. 2 men entered. Both wore matching navy jackets with security embroidered across the chest. One was middle-aged, tired eyes and a clipboard. The other, younger, broader, chewing gum like he had something better to do. They didn't knock. They didn't introduce themselves. "Miss Ellis," the older one said with a clipped tone, "we've had a report of missing property. Dr. Halbert identified you as a person of interest. We'll need you to come with us." Monica's eyes widened. "I haven't taken anything. You can check the room. I haven't even stood near the counter." "You can explain yourself downstairs," the younger one interrupted, already stepping toward her. "Let's go." "I'm pregnant," Monica said firmly, but her voice trembled. "I don't feel safe being escorted like this. I want to wait for my husband. She's on his way." "You'll have your chance," the older one muttered, "after we complete the standard process." Standard process. That's what they called it. They didn't cuff her. No need. Their silence did the job. She followed, stiff-legged, past pristine rooms and cheerful portraits, down a side corridor where the air turned colder. They led her through a grey Dorno signage, no windows into a small room that looked more like an interrogation chamber than anything medical. 1 plastic chair, 1 metal desk, 1 flickering fluorescent light. "Sit," the young one ordered. Monica hesitated. She looked at the chair like it might hurt her. Then, slowly, she lowered herself, one hand steadying her belly, the other gripping the edge of the seat. "I'd like to call my husband," she said. "Hand over the phone," the younger guard snapped. "What? Why?" "You're not under arrest," the older man chimed in, "but we're detaining you temporarily for investigation. It's policy." Monica swallowed hard. She knew this wasn't legal, but fear has a way of making truth feel distant. With shaking fingers, she placed the phone on the table. The young guard picked it up, turned it off, and slid it into a drawer with a thud that sounded too final. "We'll return it after this is resolved." "This is wrong," Monica said quietly. No response. They didn't question her. They didn't ask where she had been or what she touched. They just watched her. Minutes passed. Then more. The younger one leaned against the wall, arms crossed, gum still clicking. The older one scribbled notes about what? She had no idea. Monica sat motionless. The light above buzzed. Her breath became shallow. Her mind raced. "Derek, please hurry." She imagined him walking through the lobby, confused, then concerned, then furious. And then, a sound. Not loud, but unmistakable. The click of dress shoes on marble. Somewhere above, Derek Ellis had just entered the building. Upstairs, the front desk receptionist froze mid-sentence when she looked up. Standing in front of her was a tall man in a tailored charcoal suit. His presence didn't ask for attention, it commanded it. He didn't wear anger on his sleeve. He didn't have to. It lived in his precision. His posture. The gold lapel pin of the U.S. Department of Justice gleaming on his chest. "Good morning," he said. "I'm looking for my wife, Monica Ellis. She had a 10:30 appointment with Dr. Halbert. I was told she'd be here." The receptionist stuttered, fingers hovering above the keyboard. One moment, sir." Derek leaned in, not threateningly, but just enough to remind her that time was a luxury she no longer had. "She's not in the exam room anymore," the receptionist murmured. "Where is she?" "There was a situation," Dr. Halbert notified security. "Two think she's downstairs." "What kind of situation?" The girl looked panicked. "Something about a missing item. I'm not exactly sure. I think they're just—" "I want to see her, now." "I'll get the floor manager." "No need." Derek pulled out a leather badge holder, flipped it open with crisp authority. "Deputy Director, Office of Civil Rights Enforcement, U.S. Department of Justice." The air changed. The receptionist's breath caught. She whispered, "Down the corridor, past the staff elevators, first door on the left." Derek didn't say thank you. He just walked. Down the corridor, past rows of glass and chrome, each step deliberate, unshaken, controlled fury trailing behind him like a storm gathering on the horizon. He reached the door, pushed it open, and saw her. Monica sat, hands trembling over her belly, face pale, but eyes alert. Two guards straightened at the sight of him. "Can we help you?" the older one asked, trying to sound in control. Derek stepped fully into the room. "Yes," he said, calm, cold, unyielding. "You can help me by explaining why you have illegally detained my pregnant wife without cause, without representation, and without access to her own property." Monica gasped softly. Her voice cracked. "Derek!" He crossed the room in 3 strides, rested his hand on her shoulder. "I'm here. It's over now." Then he turned back to the guards, his tone like ice on steel. "I want names. I want the report. And I want every second of surveillance footage from the time she entered this clinic until now." The room went still. The younger guard dropped his gum. The older one stammered, "Sir, we were just following protocol." "You're not trained in civil rights law," Derek cut in. "I am, and you violated several." His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to, because justice had just walked in. The silence in the security room was the kind that came before a verdict heavy, electric, and irreversible. Derek stood tall, his hand still gently resting on Monica's shoulder. She was shaking, but less from fear now and more from sheer disbelief that someone had finally walked in for her, not to escort, not to accuse, but to protect. "I want that footage, now," Derek repeated. The younger officer took a full step back. The older one hesitated, visibly rattled. We're not authorized to release footage without managerial approval," he stammered. Derek's eyes narrowed. Slowly, he reached into his jacket and drew his credentials again, letting the badge hang in the air like a weapon of truth. "You are now." He paused. "Failure to comply at this point constitutes obstruction, and if I have to escalate this to the State Attorney General, you'll be explaining it under oath." The older officer, now pale, nodded slowly. He turned toward the monitors mounted on the wall and began tapping through security footage with shaking fingers. The screen flickered. A hallway feed came into view. The timestamp read 10:40 a.m. Monica entering the room, calm, alone, not in a rush. The footage showed her touching nothing but the doorknob and the chair. Then, 10:52, Dr. Halbert entered. 2 minutes later, she exited, pausing at the tray near the sink, patting her wrist, frowning. Then, without checking again, she stormed off. "There," Derek said. "Freeze it." The image paused on the tray. Something shiny glinted next to a tissue box. "Zoom in." The older officer enlarged the frame. The screen sharpened just enough. A Cartier watch clear as day. Still there after Monica had already been seated, untouched. "She left it," Monica whispered. "Roll it forward," Derek said. The feed advanced. At 10:54, a cleaning staffer stepped in, emptied the trash, wiped the counter, then left. At 10:59, the watch was still there. Then static. "What happened?" Derek asked sharply. "That's when the camera feed switches to the backup server for the afternoon rotation," the officer mumbled. "There's a 2-minute handoff delay." "A blind spot," Derek said, his voice like a blade. "Convenient." He walked over to the metal desk, pulled open the drawer where Monica's phone had been stashed. He retrieved it and handed it back to her. Then turned back to the guards. "You've unlawfully detained a pregnant woman, confiscated her property, denied her access to communication. And you did it based solely on the accusation of a single individual without evidence, without investigation, and without oversight." He didn't shout. He didn't need to. Every syllable hit like a hammer. I will be filing formal complaints with the Department of Justice, the State Medical Licensing Board, and the Office for Civil Rights Enforcement. I want written statements from both of you before the day ends. The officers didn't move. They didn't argue. Because they knew. Monica stood slowly, her legs shaky, but her posture tall. She looked smaller than she was, but stronger than she'd ever felt. I want to go upstairs, she said softly. I want to face her. Derek nodded. Then let's go. They stepped out together, past the grey door, past the corridors that had felt like a trap just minutes before. The moment they entered the main hallway, everything stopped. Nurses turned. Receptionists froze. Every pair of eyes locked onto them, not because Monica was alone anymore, but because she wasn't. She was walking beside a man the entire building now recognized not just as her husband, but as a federal officer, a storm in a tailored suit. Outside a glass conference room at the end of the hall stood a visibly nervous administrator, clipboard clutched tight to his chest. Mr. Ellis, Mrs. Ellis, the board is convened. Dr. Halbert is inside. Derek didn't nod. He didn't thank him. He simply held the door open for Monica. Inside, the room was sleek, sanitized, and cold. A long glass table stretched beneath surgical lighting. At one end sat 3 board member STWO men and a woman all white, all visibly unsettled. Beside them, sitting stiffly with crossed arms and a tightened jaw, was Dr. Lindsay Halbert. Still proud, still collected, but the tension in her eyes betrayed her. Monica took the seat across from her. Derek remained standing, his badge now visible, clipped clearly to his lapel. No one spoke at first. Then the board chair cleared his throat. We understand there was a misunderstanding during this morning's examination. Mr. Ellis, do you intend to file a formal grievance? Derek stepped forward, calm, controlled. He placed a folder on the table, typed, time-stamped, signed. My wife was falsely accused of theft, unlawfully detained, and humiliated inside a licensed medical facility. We have video proof that the watch was never touched. We also have audio recorded from her phone of racially charged, degrading comments made by Dr. Halbert. At that, the doctor scoffed audibly. I followed protocol, she snapped. I had every reason to suspect her. You had every reason to assume, Derek cut in, based on the color of her skin and the absence of a man at her side, no, based on her actions. The room fell silent. Monica's voice broke through clear, but low. You looked at me and didn't see a teacher, a wife, a mother, to be. You saw a problem, something to be managed, disposed of. Halbert narrowed her eyes. That's not what happened. Monica didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. You called me a thief before you spoke to me like a human being. You judged me because of how I looked, not what I did. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Derek stepped forward again. We're not just here for justice, we're here for change. He took a breath. We're requesting Dr. Halbert's immediate suspension, a public apology, institutional reform, and mandatory anti-bias training for all medical staff. The board chair swallowed visibly. We will begin proceedings immediately? The words barely left his mouth before Dr. Halbert stood abruptly, her chair skidding behind her. This is ridiculous. I won't be railroaded by sensationalism and guilt tactics. No one responded. No one followed her. And for the first time all day, Dr. Lindsay Halbert was alone. The door shut behind Dr. Halbert with a thud that echoed more than her words ever could. No one called after her. No one defended her. And that silence finally belonged to Monica Ellis. The board members sat stiffly, uncertain whether to speak or stand. The tension in the room hadn't disappeared, but it had shifted. It no longer suffocated Monica, surrounded those who had let this happen. She didn't look angry. She looked clear, as if something had broken loose inside her, and what remained was a woman who knew her worth. Derek leaned slightly toward the table. My office will be following up with a full report. We expect full cooperation and written apologies before the end of the week. This incident isn't just a mistake, it's a violation, and violations have consequences. The board nodded in unison. Outside, the air smelled of something new, like rain had just passed. Monica and Derek stepped out of the clinic together. The world hadn't changed, not completely, but they had. They didn't speak at first. They just walked, hand in hand. Back to the parking lot, back to life, back to the baby growing inside her who, even in the worst moment, had reminded Monica why she had to stay standing. 3 days later, the Eastbrook Women's Medical Center released a public statement. Dr. Lindsay Halbert was placed on indefinite administrative leave, pending a full ethics review. The clinic committed to implementing new civil rights compliance measures, revising all internal procedures, and conducting mandatory anti-bias training for all medical and security staff. But that wasn't enough, not for Monica, because she knew this story wasn't just hers. So, 2 weeks later, Monica stood on the clinic steps again, but this time, she wasn't alone in fear. She was surrounded by reporters, local civil rights leaders, community advocates, and expectant mothers who had come just to witness someone speak the truth. Derek stood beside her, not as a federal officer, but as a husband who had refused to let silence be the last word. The podium creaked slightly as Monica stepped up, flashbulbs popped, microphones leaned in. But her voices, soft, steady, certain, carried more than any camera could capture. "This isn't just about me," she began. "It's about every woman who walks into a space and is treated as a threat before she's even seen as a person. It's about the women who are questioned not because of what they've done, but because of how they look, because they don't come wrapped in privilege or adorned with titles or flanked by power." She paused. Let it sink in. "I was humiliated while carrying life inside me, stripped of my dignity in a place meant to protect it, and I am not the only one. We will not be quiet. We will not be convenient. We will not disappear just to make others comfortable." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, not loud, but heavy. The kind of silence that said, "We hear you. We see you." Behind her, Derek watched with quiet pride, arms crossed, jaw tight, heart full. This wasn't the ending he had imagined for their pregnancy. But it was the beginning of something bigger. Later that evening, news outlets picked up the story. Pregnant woman detained without cause, federal official intervenes. Clinic faces civil rights probe after racial profiling scandal. Justice at Eastbrook, one woman's stand sparks reform. And at home, Monica sat by the window, hand resting on her belly, the twilight painting her face in soft gold. Her phone buzzed with messages from former students, fellow teachers, even strangers who had seen the video. Each one a thread in a growing web of solidarity. She turned to Derek. "Do you think it'll change anything?" He didn't answer right away. Then, "It already has." "Oh?" In the weeks that followed, Monica returned to her quiet life, teaching, nesting, preparing for motherhood. But something in her had shifted forever. She no longer entered spaces hoping to be accepted. She walked in knowing she belonged. She had survived humiliation and responded not with revenge, but with truth, dignity, and power. She had reminded a system what it had forgotten: that a woman's worth is not defined by how quietly she endures injustice, but by how boldly she stands when the world expects her to shrink.